4-year-old Neo is in the hospital. Suspected diagnosis: blood cancer. His parents are in shock.
I thought about my childhood, because I had that myself.
February 2020. Neo Graben is looking forward to the summer because then he can finally ride motocross again with Father Kim.
That's his thing. Yeah. Ideally every day. I've been doing it since I was little. I started when I was 11. Neo copied that and is already riding quite well. Yes.
The 4-year-old loves action. But right now, rest is necessary. Because for a few days, he has had a cold and a fever.
Still too high. Yes, that's how it started.
Noticed that he didn't have the same energy, let's say, like he often used to have. That he simply, yes, became weaker and more lethargic.
What's wrong with you?
Even when the cold is long over, Neo remains powerless. The otherwise lively boy is completely unrecognizable during a bike tour in May.
And that really made us think, because he absolutely didn't want to ride anymore. And I basically had to carry him home.
The next day, his mother Michaela takes Neo worriedly to the pediatrician. Not only has he been so lethargic lately, but shortly after the bike tour, something else worrying was noticed.
After dinner, we undressed him and he wanted to put on his pajamas. And we noticed that from his feet to his buttocks, he had little red spots everywhere.
Then you immediately ask, Dr. Buhl, what could it be? And it was already clear that something might be wrong with the blood count. You know, if you have these bleedings in the skin or if you're feeling weak and tired.
The pediatrician also shares this concern. Such red spots are typical when there are too few thrombocytes in the blood. Platelets. They are responsible for blood clotting. If they are missing, dangerous bleeding threatens. But why does Neo have too few thrombocytes?
One possibility, and this is always the alarm possibility that immediately comes to mind, is that so many other cells spread in the bone marrow, white blood cells, that the blood looks entirely white. And if you translate this from Greek, it means leukemia.
Leukemia, blood cancer.
You no longer know what you want. So at first you should think, but you just don't. You see it from the outside, so you can't really think anymore. Or you just function, and everything basically passes you by.
To rule out leukemia, Neo is admitted to Lübeck University Hospital. His blood needs to be sent to a lab immediately. Father Kim can hardly believe what is happening.
I thought of my childhood, because I had that myself.
And 25 years earlier, the young Kim arrives at the university clinic in Lübeck with a high fever and completely weakened. His liver and spleen are swollen, and the blood values are catastrophic. At the time, the doctors assume a malignant blood disease.
We didn't know exactly what it was, and I thought, we always thought it was cancer. It's a disease where he could die, one that's incurable. That's what we were told also in Lübeck. We were told they don't know if he will survive this.
Kim is receiving chemotherapy to destroy malignant cells in his blood.
Kim, how are you today?
Not so good.
Not so well?
He spends many months in the hospital.
But I don't
A
want
traumatizing time.
I just know that you have to vomit afterwards, right?
He became a reserved child after the illness, and yes, it took a long time for him to become happy again.
Do Father Kim and son Neo share the same fate? Blood cancer expert Melchior Lauten is supposed to find that out. He has analyzed Neo's blood count.
With Neo, it was the case that the blood, took blood and initially put it under the microscope on suspicion of leukemia and saw that it did not look typical for leukemia. Oh, thank God. That is good news, isn't it? And that's why we rather suspected that he has a reduced number of platelets due to the immune system. This condition is abbreviated as ITP.
ITP, immune thrombocytopenia. The immune system is out of control. Antibodies that normally should fight pathogens attack the body's own thrombocytes. Such a malfunction can occur when the immune system gets inflamed by a simple infection and forgets to hit the stop button.
And that is a relatively common illness. A childhood illness in which Neo also was.
And it is a condition that is well treatable with immunoglobulins. They are intended to calm the misdirected immune system. Neo should soon feel better with them.
Then it was basically like a full stop, you could say. Relief. Because we thought everything is better than the shock we just experienced here.
But then, it turns out the therapy is not as effective as hoped. This makes the cancer specialist pensive.
That Neo developed a fever, that he developed enlarged lymph nodes, that the spleen became larger, that the liver became larger. That one somehow had the impression that with what was being done, it wasn't going in the right direction long term.
Is it really not ITP? Always most noticeable. The parallels between Neo's symptoms and Father Kim's previous illness become more apparent. There must be a connection. Melchior Lauten has the old files from the 1990s obtained from the archive. And it says, unlike the Graben family thought, Kim did not have leukemia back then, but another dangerous disease that can be inherited, a hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, or HLH for short. Immune system cells are out of control in this condition. They are overactive, devouring not only hostile invaders but also healthy blood cells.
And that is something you can truly see microscopically. And that is why you really have to look where the blood is formed, namely in the bone marrow.
Bone marrow is extracted from the iliac crest. The sample is to be analyzed by experts. Experts from the university hospitals in Hamburg and Freiburg will be examined. If certain blood cells and genes are conspicuous, this indicates the diagnosis of HLH. However, it takes weeks for the tests to be completed.
All good.
A difficult time for Neo.
He was completely exhausted, you know. He had no I think anymore. No cycling, no playing with other children.
Melchior Lauten is certain. Neo's blood cells are being attacked by the immune system. Even before the lab results are in, he gives Neo a new medication.
Namely cortisone. Because cortisone is a medication that is completely non-specific and very unselective in the end, capable of addressing many forms, almost all forms of overstimulation of the immune system. It's easy to treat.
And indeed, a high dose of cortisone works.
Hey, big guy. Oh, nice. That was the first time in all this period that Neo felt really good after that short dose. So he was jumping around at home and dancing and prancing.
But the joy is short-lived. Because when the cortisone dose is reduced, Neo gets worse again. And then there are finally results from the specialized lab.
Just take a look at the findings.
All the tests for the specific genes and also the function tests of these blood cells were completely unremarkable. So this diagnosis of HLH crumbled at that point.
The doctors are back at the very beginning. Neo receives... Neo has to continue taking cortisone for now. New tests are scheduled to follow in a few weeks.
That was a nightmare. Yes, you were basically worried the whole time, you know. What is that? What's wrong with him? Will it go away?
Michaela Graben feels abandoned. With the onset of the corona pandemic, there is currently no one who has time to explain how things will proceed. And it quickly becomes clear that high-dose cortisone cannot be a permanent solution. This is shown by Neo's bloated face.
Due to the cortisone, yes, he really scared me at times because he was so different in personality. Like, he clapped his hands and then grinned strangely, or sometimes just said odd things. And we would say, "What is that now?" So, really bad.
The mother wants to hear a second opinion and turns to HLH expert Kai Leiberg at the University Hospital in Hamburg. To their surprise, the Neo's case is already known, as the University Clinic Lübeck has previously exchanged information with the UKE colleagues. Therefore, Kai Leiberg knows. The case is complicated. It is clear. Something is consuming Neo's blood cells. But what? The immunologist calls in the family and tries to rearrange the puzzle.
That you don't get caught up in this tunnel. You try not to, right? That you take a step back, look at everything from the outside again, and consider it all with some distance again.
Similar symptoms in father and son? Coincidence? And then suddenly the specialist has an insight. What if it is something genetic after all, but not HLH? What if Father Kim received a wrong diagnosis at that time?
He then told us he didn't want to raise false hopes, but he had a suspicion about what it could be. And it wouldn't need to be treated with cortisone, but there would also be a medication. And for us, that was like, yes.
Kai Leiberg orders very specific laboratory tests again. Using a so-called flow cytometry, the number of different immune cells should be measured. And in this measurement, it becomes noticeable. Neo has too many double negative T cells, a subtype of lymphocytes in the blood. An important clue. Additionally, a specific immune protein, the Fas ligand, is examined, and it also shows abnormalities.
I would support your thesis there. And that creates a pattern where one says, in this constellation, there is really a strong suspicion
that an ALPS could be present.
Normally, the number of immune cells, like lymphocytes in the body, is precisely regulated. New ones are formed and old ones die. But in Neo, this balance is disrupted. He has too many lymphocytes. They accumulate in the liver, spleen, and lymph glands and can trigger a fatal autoimmune reaction. Antibodies then attack the body's own blood cells. This phenomenon is called autoimmune lymphoproliferative syndrome, abbreviated ALPS. A genetic analysis provides the last piece of the puzzle. Kim and Neo both have a mutation in a gene that can cause ALPS. This disease was almost unknown in Kim Graben's childhood. Since then, fortunately, much has been achieved. In contrast to Kim, Neo does not need chemotherapy.
Of course it made me happy. Yes.
Because there is now a new medication that inhibits the metabolism of the diseased immune cells and is better tolerated than cortisone. And there is more good news.
There is a good prospect that the severity of the condition will decrease over the course of life and that possibly no medication will be needed anymore.
Neo's sister fortunately did not inherit the ALPS gene. Father Kim has not had any symptoms for years, and the medication is helping Neo.
He's really back to his old self. Completely full of energy and sometimes over the top. But yeah, such a real powerhouse boy.
Neo and Kim Graben are finally back on the road.